The meeting room grew quiet. Ambassador Grell's yellow eyes narrowed as he stared at Commander Taiho. Proof. The alien's voice was cold. You offer to prove a fairy tale. Taiho stood straight, his face calm even as his heart raced. It is not a fairy tale, Ambassador. It is our history. Grell rose from his seat. He was much taller than any human in the room. His scales shifted to a darker green. A sign of anger, Taiho guessed. Then I challenge you, Commander, Grell said. His words came out like stones falling on metal. Show us this proof. If you cannot, you must admit that humans make up stories to seem stronger than they are. The other Clarthak nodded, their teeth showing in what might have been smiles. Only the young one, Vrax, looked uncertain. Captain Jaiwan stepped closer to Taiho and spoke quietly. This could be good for us, Commander. The Naval Museum in Busan has everything we need. The records, the replicas, even the battle simulations. Taiho thought for a moment. The first meeting with the Clarthak was not going well, but perhaps this challenge could turn things around. Very well, Ambassador, Taiho said. I invite you and your team to visit Earth. We will show you our historical archives and the Naval Museum where Admiral Yi's achievements are documented and preserved. A sound like grinding rocks filled the room as the aliens talked among themselves in their own language. Finally, Grell turned back to the humans. We accept your invitation, Commander. But know this, the Clarthak do not like being lied to. If this is some trick to impress us, it will damage relations between our peoples. Ensign Hassan, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up with worry in her eyes. She caught the gaze of the young alien, Vrax, who seemed equally concerned. It is no trick, Taiho assured them. We will leave for Earth tomorrow. After the meeting ended and the aliens left, Jaiwan turned to Taiho. Do you think this is wise? Commander, they clearly don't believe us, and they seem dangerous. Taiho looked at the star map on the wall screen, Earth a tiny blue dot among thousands. They already think we are weak and foolish, he said. If we back down now, they will never respect us. Besides, the truth is on our side. Later that evening, as Hae-sun walked through the quiet halls of the ship, she heard someone call her name. She turned to find Vrax standing there, his tall figure looking out of place among the human-sized corridors. Ensign Hae-sun, he said, his translator making his deep voice sound almost musical. I hope I am not disturbing you. Hae-sun shook her head. Not at all. Can I help you with something? Vrax looked around to make sure they were alone. I wanted to ask about this Admiral Yi. Is it really true what Commander Taiho said? About 13 ships defeating hundreds. Yes, it's true, Hae-sun said. Admiral Yi is one of our greatest heroes. When I was young, my father took me to see the turtle ship replicas. They're amazing. But how? Vrax asked, his yellow eyes wide with genuine curiosity. Even with advanced weapons, such a victory seems impossible. Hae-sun smiled. It wasn't the weapons that made Admiral Yi great. It was his mind, his strategy, and his courage. The others don't believe you, Vrax said quietly. They think this visit to Earth will prove humans are liars. And what do you think? Hae-sun asked. Before Vrax could answer, a sharp voice called from down the hall. Another Clarthak was approaching quickly. Vrax, what are you doing speaking alone with a human? Vrax straightened up. Just learning about Earth culture, Senior Officer Drac. As ordered. Drac's scales darkened as he looked at Hae-sun. Return to our quarters. Now. As Vrax hurried away, Drac leaned closer to Hae-sun. His breath smelled like metal. Save your stories for the children of your world, human. The Clarthak deal in truth and strength, not legends. He turned and walked away, leaving Hae-sun standing alone in the corridor, wondering what would happen when they reached Earth. On the bridge, Taiho stared at the stars and hoped he had not made a terrible mistake. The ship moved through space at high speed. Stars streaked past the windows like lines of light. Inside, humans and aliens tried to share the same space without stepping on each other's toes, both literally and figuratively. Commander Taiho stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue planet, wrapped in white clouds, was just hours away now. "Commander, may I speak with you?" Captain Jai-1 approached, holding a datapad. "Of course," Taiho said. "I've been watching the Klarthak. They spend a lot of time studying our ship's systems, especially our weapons." Jai-1's voice was low with concern. Taiho frowned. "You think they're gathering intelligence?" "I'm certain of it. The question is why." Before Taiho could answer, the bridge door opened, and Ambassador Grell entered with 2 other aliens. Their clawed feet clicked against the floor. "Ah, Commander, your home world looks small." Grell's pointed teeth showed as he spoke. "Small but beautiful," Taiho replied with a smile. "We're honored to welcome the first Klarthak delegation to Earth." Grell looked at the planet on the screen. "I hope this visit will be educational for all of us." Something in the way he said it made Taiho's skin feel cold. In another part of the ship, Ensign Hassan sat in the dining area, reading on her datapad. She looked up when someone sat across from her. "May I join you?" It was Vrax, the young Klarthak officer. His scales were a lighter green today, almost blue at the edges. "Of course," Hassan said, putting down her pad. Vrax looked around to make sure no other aliens were nearby. "I have been reading about your Admiral Yi. Your ship's computer has many files about him." Hassan smiled. "He's very important in our history. What do you think so far?" "It is hard to believe," Vrax admitted. "But I am trying to keep an open mind. These turtle ships, they were very clever." "They were his own design," Hassan said. "The roof protected the sailors from arrows. The ships had iron spikes to stop enemies from climbing aboard, and the dragon head at the front blew smoke to scare enemy ships." Vrax's eyes widened. "All this 500 years ago." "Yes, and the most amazing part was how he used the sea to help him fight. He knew the waters around Korea better than anyone, like a good hunter knows the land," Vrax said, nodding. Hassan was about to respond when she noticed Senior Officer Drac watching them from across the room. His scales were dark, almost black. "I should go," Vrax said, also seeing Drac. "But I would like to learn more." As Vrax left, Hassan wondered why he was so different from the other Klarthak. Later that day, Taiho called a meeting with his team. "We'll reach Earth in 4 hours," he told them. "The Klarthak will stay for 3 days. We need to make the most of this time." "The museum is ready, Commander," Jai-1 said. "Professor Dahyun will meet us there, and Sangmin has prepared the turtle ship replicas and battle simulations." Taiho nodded. "Good. Remember, this isn't just about proving Admiral Yi's story. This is about earning the respect of a powerful species. The future of Earth and the Galactic Alliance may depend on it." As they talked, none of them noticed the small device under the table, blinking with a faint green light. In his private quarters, Ambassador Grell listened to the humans' conversation through the hidden device. Next to him, a star map of Earth's solar system glowed on a screen, with red marks highlighting military bases and defensive positions. "They are so trusting," Grell said to Officer Drac, who stood at attention nearby. "They let us into their ship, into their system, and soon into their museums of war." "They are weak," Drac said. "They believe in cooperation rather than strength." Grell tapped a long claw against the star map. "After we confirm these wild tales are lies, we will have all we need to report back to the Empire. Earth will make an easy conquest." "What about Vrax?" Drac asked. "He seems influenced by the human stories." "Youth is often foolish," Grell said. "He will learn the truth soon enough." As Earth grew larger in the viewports, both humans and aliens prepared for a visit that would change everything, but not in the way either side expected. The morning sun shone on Busan, South Korea. The city's tall buildings gleamed near the blue waters of the harbor. People stopped and stared as the strange group made their way through the streets. 4 tall, scaly aliens walked between the human guards, their yellow eyes taking in everything. "This building ahead is the Naval Historical Archives," Commander Taiho explained, pointing to a large white structure with a curved roof. "It holds records going back 1,000 years." Ambassador Grill made a sound like stones grinding together. "Paper records. How primitive." "Some are paper, yes," Captain Jai once said, "but they have lasted hundreds of years. That shows how important they are to us." As they entered the building, a short man with gray hair came forward. He wore a simple black suit with a small pin showing a ship on the waves. "Welcome, honored guests. I am Professor Da Hyun-yoon, keeper of the archives." He bowed deeply. Taiho introduced the Klarthak delegation. Professor Da Hyun's eyes widened at the sight of the aliens, but he kept his calm. "Please follow me," the professor said. "I have prepared our most important records of Admiral Yi Sun-shin." They entered a large room with soft lighting. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with old books and scrolls. In the center of the room stood a table with several items laid out carefully. "These are Admiral Yi's personal war diaries," Professor Da-hyun said, pointing to a set of bound books. "He wrote in them every day during the war with Japan." Vrax leaned forward, his eyes bright with interest. "He wrote these with his own hand." "Yes," the professor nodded. "And here we have reports from his officers, letters to the king, and even accounts from Japanese captains who fought against him." Ambassador Grill picked up one of the translated copies provided for them. His claws flipped through the pages. "It says here that in the Battle of Myeongnyang, Admiral Yi destroyed 31 enemy ships without losing a single one of his 13 vessels." Grell's voice was heavy with disbelief. No commander could achieve such a victory, unless they were a tactical genius who knew the waters perfectly, Hae-sun said quietly. Professor Da-hyun pressed a button on the table. A holographic map appeared above it, showing a narrow strait between an island and the mainland. "This is where the battle took place," he explained. "Admiral Yi chose this location because he knew about the dangerous currents. The Japanese ships were caught in the strong waters while Yi's ships could maneuver freely. A wise hunter uses the land to trap prey," Vrax said, earning a sharp look from Officer Drac. Grill put down the papers. "These could easily be fake. Words on paper prove nothing." "We thought you might say that," Taiho said calmly. "That's why we have more evidence. These records match exactly with Japanese accounts from the same time. They were bitter enemies, but their stories are the same." Professor Da-hyun brought out more documents. "These are Japanese war reports, describing their defeats. They called Admiral Yi the Devil of the Sea because they feared him so much." The professor showed them paintings from both Korean and Japanese artists showing the same battles, maps drawn by people who were there, letters from sailors who survived. Officer Drac leaned close to Grill. "This means nothing. Any species can create fake evidence." But Ensign Hassan noticed that Vrax was reading everything carefully, his clawed finger moving along the lines of text. "There is too much here," Vrax said suddenly. "Too many details that match. It would be hard to fake all of this." "Are you questioning me?" Drac growled. "No, senior officer," Vrax said quickly. "I am only observing." Taiho watched the exchange with interest. He turned to Ambassador Grill. "If you still have doubts, we have more to show you. The Naval Museum has full-size replicas of the turtle ships and combat simulations of the battles." Grill's scales darkened slightly. "Very well. Show us these replicas. But know this, Commander, the Klarthak are not easily fooled by clever displays." As they left the archives, Professor Da-hyun whispered to Taiho, "They are a difficult audience." "Yes," Taiho agreed, "but I think we're starting to crack their shell. At least one of them is beginning to wonder." The Naval Museum stood near the water, its modern glass walls reflecting the blue sea. Inside the main hall, a full-size replica of a turtle ship waited for them. It was an impressive sight, 20 meters long with a dragon head at the front and a rounded top covered with iron spikes. "This," Captain Jaiwan said with pride, "is Admiral Yu's greatest innovation, the Geobuction, or turtle ship." The Clarthak walked around the ship slowly. Even Ambassador Grell seemed impressed by its size. "It doesn't look like much compared to our space vessels," Officer Drack said, but his eyes never left the ship. A tall man in a blue uniform approached them. "I am Sang-Min Choi, Chief Engineer of the museum. I helped build this replica based on historical plans." Sang-Min patted the wooden side of the ship. This looked simple, but it was revolutionary for its time. The covered roof protected the sailors from arrows and fire. These spikes prevented enemy soldiers from boarding. Vrax reached out and touched one of the iron spikes. Sharp, effective. "The most dangerous part was here," Sang-Min continued, pointing to the dragon head at the front. "It could shoot cannonballs and release sulfur smoke that would blind and confuse the enemy." Ambassador Grell walked onto the deck of the ship. His heavy feet made the wood creak. "How many weapons could this ship carry?" "At least 20 cannons on each side," Sang-Min said, "plus the sailors with their own weapons." Grell's scales shifted color slightly. "Still, 13 ships against hundreds. It's not possible." Jaiwan smiled. That's where Admiral Yu's genius came in. It wasn't just about the ships. It was about how he used them. They moved to another room where smaller models showed the battle formations. Sang-Min explained how Admiral Yu used the narrow strait to force the enemy ships to come at him in a line rather than all at once. The Japanese ships had to fight the current while Admiral Yu's ships rode with it, Sang-Min said. And when the tide turned, so did the battle. Officer Drack leaned close to one of the models. His military training made him see what others might miss. "The enemy ships would crash into each other in such tight waters," he said quietly. "Exactly," Sang-Min nodded. "And Admiral Yu's ships were faster and more maneuverable." Hae-sun noticed Vrax watching everything with great interest. She moved beside him as the others walked ahead. "What do you think?" she asked. "It's impressive," Vrax admitted. "We have a saying. A smart fighter finds the weakness in any armor. Your Admiral Yi found the weakness in his enemies' greater numbers." "That's a good way to put it." Hae-sun smiled. Suddenly, they heard Ambassador Grell's loud voice from across the room. "This proves nothing. Models and replicas can be made to show anything you want." Commander Tahoe remained calm. "Then perhaps you would like to test it yourself, Ambassador." "Test it? How?" Grell asked. "Our museum has a state-of-the-art battle simulation system," Sang-Min explained. "It uses all the historical data we have about the ships, the weather, the currents, and the tactics. You can command either side and see what happens." The Clarthak warriors looked at each other. Their people loved challenges and tests of skill. "Yes," Grell said finally. "I will command the larger fleet. We will see if your admiral's victory was possible or just a human fairy tale." As they walked toward the simulation room, Tahoe whispered to Jaiwan, "This is exactly what I hoped would happen. They can't resist a chance to prove themselves better." Jaiwan nodded. "But what if they win the simulation? What if they find a way to beat Admiral Yu's tactics? Then they will have done something the Japanese couldn't do 500 years ago," Tahoe said. "But I don't think that will happen. The simulation is based on real physics and real history. The odds are still with Admiral Yu." In the darkened simulation room, filled with holographic projectors and control panels, Ambassador Grell flexed his clawed fingers. "Prepare your simulation, humans. Today, we rewrite your history." The simulation room hummed with power. Blue light filled the space as holographic water appeared around them. Islands, coastlines, and ships formed from light. "This is amazing," Vrax whispered, reaching out to touch a wave that wasn't really there. Sang-Min stood at the main control panel. The simulation uses all the data we have about the Battle of Myeonyang. The ships, the weapons, the weather, the tides, everything is as accurate as possible. 2 control stations glowed on opposite sides of the room. Ambassador Grell moved to the larger one. "I will command the Japanese fleet," he said, his scales shining blue-green in the light of the holograms. "And who will command Admiral Yu's ships?" Sangmin asked. Taiho looked at his team. This was a crucial moment. They needed someone who truly understood the history. "I will," Hae-sun said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. "Ensign?" Taiho asked. "My grandfather was a naval historian, sir," Hae-sun explained. "He studied Admiral Yu all his life. I grew up hearing these battles described at the dinner table. I know the tactics." Taiho nodded. "Very well, Ensign. Make us proud." Hae-sun moved to the smaller control station. Around her, 13 Korean ships appeared. Across the simulated strait, Grell had more than 300 Japanese vessels under his command. "The odds seem fair," Officer Drax said with a harsh laugh. Sangmin explained the controls to both of them. "The simulation will follow your commands, but the ships will behave according to the physics of water and wind. The strait has strong currents that change with the tide." "Begin," Grell commanded. The holographic ships came to life. Grell immediately ordered his fleet forward in a massive wave. Hundreds of Japanese ships moved toward the narrow strait, where Hae-sun's 13 vessels waited. Hae-sun carefully positioned her ships in a line across the narrowest part of the strait. Just as the Japanese ships entered the channel, she gave an order. "Fire." The Korean ships released a barrage of cannon fire. Several Japanese ships at the front of the formation burst into flames. "A lucky shot," Grell growled. He sent more ships forward. But something strange happened. As the Japanese ships tried to enter the narrow strait, they began to slow down. Some started to drift sideways. "What is happening?" Grell demanded. Hae-sun smiled. "The tide is changing. The current is now against you, but it's pushing my ships from behind." Grell's ships began to bunch together in the narrow channel. They couldn't move forward easily and couldn't turn around. The ships at the back kept pushing forward, causing confusion. "Fire all weapons," Grell ordered, his scales darkening with frustration. But most of his ships were too crowded to use their weapons effectively. Meanwhile, Hae-sun's vessels continued to fire from their perfect position. "The turtle ships are advancing," Sangmin announced. Hae-sun had sent 2 turtle ships into the middle of the confused Japanese fleet. The dragonheads released smoke, and the Japanese ships fired blindly, often hitting their own vessels. Everyone watched in silence as the battle unfolded. Japanese ships caught fire, collided with each other, or ran aground on the shallow parts of the strait. All the while, the Korean ships maintained perfect formation. "This can't be right," Grell said, his voice low and angry. "The simulation must be programmed to make the humans win." "The simulation uses real physics," Sangmin replied calmly. "You can check the code yourself." An hour later, 31 Japanese ships had been destroyed. Not a single Korean ship was lost. The simulation ended. The room was quiet. Officer Drax stared at the final battle display with wide eyes. Vrax looked at Hae-sun with new respect. "How?" Grell finally asked. "How could this happen?" "Admiral Yi knew the waters," Hae-sun explained. "He knew the tide would change at that exact time. He picked the perfect location and the perfect moment." "Run it again," Grell demanded. "I want to try different tactics." Taiho and Ji-won exchanged a small smile. The aliens were beginning to believe. 4 hours passed in the simulation room. Ambassador Grell had tried 7 different battle plans. He had split his fleet, attacked from both ends of the strait, waited for the tide to change, sent small fast ships first, and even tried to burn the Korean ships with fire arrows before entering the strait. Nothing worked. Each time, Admiral Yi's tactics, followed carefully by Ensign Hae-sun, resulted in the same outcome. The Japanese fleet lost many ships, while the Korean fleet remained untouched. Grell's scales had darkened to an almost black color. He stood motionless, staring at the final simulation results. "It's not possible," he whispered. Officer Drack had stopped making comments hours ago. He now studied the map of the strait with the eyes of a military commander, trying to understand what had happened. "The simulation must be wrong," Drack finally said, but his voice lacked conviction. Sang-min stepped forward. "You can examine our data and programming. Everything is based on historical records, weather reports from that time, and the known capabilities of both fleets." Vrax had been quiet throughout all the simulations. Now he spoke, his voice filled with awe. "I believe it is real. This Admiral Yi, he was a true warrior. How could one human be so skilled?" Grell asked, more to himself than anyone else. Commander Tahoe walked to the center of the room. The holographic waves still moved around his feet, making it look like he was standing in the middle of the sea. "Admiral Yi was not just skilled," Tahoe said. "He was devoted to his people. Before this battle, many thought Korea was already defeated. The king had removed Yi from command earlier because of false accusations. Most of the navy was destroyed while he was gone. But he came back," Hassan added. "When his country needed him most, he returned to command just 12 ships. 13. Vrax corrected. The king gave him one more ship." Hassan smiled, surprised and pleased that Vrax had been listening so carefully. "Yes, 13, she agreed. "And with those 13 ships, he saved his country." Grell finally turned away from the simulation controls. His yellow eyes had a new look in them, not anger, but thoughtfulness. "In all my years as a warrior, I have never seen such tactics," he admitted. "To use the sea itself as a weapon. It is something the Klarthak would do." This was the closest thing to praise they had heard from the ambassador. Captain Jaiwon stepped forward. Admiral Yi wrote in his war diary, "Those who seek death shall live, and those who seek life shall die." He was prepared to sacrifice everything for his people. A strange sound filled the room. It took everyone a moment to realize that Grell was making a rumbling noise deep in his chest, a sign of respect among the Klarthak. "Perhaps," Grell said slowly, "there is more to humans than we first thought." The mood in the room had changed. The aliens were no longer looking at the humans with dismissal or disbelief. Now there was something like respect in their eyes. Officer Drack moved close to Grell and whispered, "This changes our plans, doesn't it?" Grell nodded slightly. "We must reconsider." Taiho pretended not to hear this exchange, but inside, he felt a wave of relief. Whatever the Klarthak had been planning, they were now thinking twice about it. As they left the simulation room, Vrax fell into step beside Hassan. "You're Admiral Yi," he said quietly. "Are there others like him in human history?" Hassan smiled. "Many. We have a long history of people who achieved the impossible when it mattered most." Vrax looked at her with new eyes. "I would like to learn about them." Behind them, Ambassador Grell watched this exchange with a thoughtful expression. For the first time since meeting humans, he wondered if he had made a serious mistake in judging them so quickly. Night fell over Busan. Lights from the city reflected on the dark water of the harbor. In a private dining room at the top of a hotel, the human and Klarthak delegations gathered for dinner. The room was beautiful, with large windows showing the city and sea below. The table was set with the best food from both Korean and Klarthak cultures. Commander Tahoe raised a glass. "To new understanding between our peoples." The others raised their glasses too. Even Ambassador Grell joined in, though his movements were stiff. As they ate, the mood was different from before. The aliens were quieter, less dismissive. They asked questions about Earth's history and culture that showed real interest. Captain Jaiwon noticed Officer Drack watching her carefully. "Is something wrong, officer?" she asked. Drack's scales shifted color slightly. "I am wondering something. Your Admiral, was he honored in his lifetime?" Jaiwon's face grew sad. "No, Despite saving his country many times, he was often treated poorly by the king and court officials who were jealous of him. He died in his final battle, shot by a stray bullet as he achieved his last victory. A warrior's death, Drax said with approval. But a shame he was not recognized. That is often the way of great leaders, Tahoe said. Their true value is only seen clearly after they are gone. Across the room, Vrax and Haysun stood near the windows, looking out at the stars. Your world is beautiful, Vrax said. The way your cities shine at night, like stars that have fallen to the ground. Haysun smiled. Thank you. I hope someday I can see your world too. Vrax's scales darkened suddenly. He looked around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer to Hassan. I need to tell you something, he said in a low voice. Something important. Haysun felt a chill. What is it? We did not come here just for cultural exchange, Vrax said. The Empire sent us to gather information about Earth's defenses and military capabilities. They planned to. He couldn't finish. To invade? Haysun asked, her voice barely a whisper. Vrax nodded. The Klarthak expand by conquest. It is our way. We believed humans would be easy to defeat, technologically advanced, but strategically weak. And now I am not sure, Vrax admitted. What we've learned about Admiral Yi and other human warriors. It has made Ambassador Grell and Officer Drac reconsider their reports to the Empire. Haysun looked across the room at Commander Tahoe. I should tell my commander. Please, Vrax said, touching her arm gently with his clawed hand. Let me speak to Ambassador Grell first. I believe his mind is changing. On the other side of the room, Tahoe was having his own difficult conversation with Grell. Ambassador, Tahoe said quietly, our security team found several scanning devices on your ship, devices that mapped our defense systems. Instead of denying it, Grell looked Tahoe directly in the eyes. Yes, we were gathering intelligence. For what purpose? Tahoe asked, though he already knew the answer. The Klarthak Empire expands. It is what we do. It is what we have always done. Grell's voice was matter-of-fact, without apology. Tahoe kept his face calm, though his heart was racing. And now, Grell looked around the room, at the humans and Klarthak talking together. His gaze lingered on Vrax and Hassan by the window. Now, I must reconsider my report to the Empire, Grell said. A species that produced a military mind like Admiral Yi's and has preserved his strategies for study all these centuries is not to be taken lightly. We don't want to be your enemies, Tahoe said. We would rather be allies. Grell made that rumbling sound again, the Klarthak sign of respect. Perhaps that would be wiser. I have lived long enough to know when to fight and when to reconsider. As the night went on, humans and aliens continued to talk. Old barriers were breaking down. New understanding was growing. But Tahoe knew that tomorrow would be the true test. Would the aliens leave as friends or as future enemies? Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the conference room in Busan's International Space Center. The human delegation sat on one side of the table. The Klarthak sat on the other. This was supposed to be their final meeting before the aliens returned to space. Commander Tahoe had not slept well. Despite the better mood at dinner, he worried about what Ambassador Grell would report to his empire. Would Earth face an invasion in the coming years? Thank you for your hospitality, Grell began formally. His scales were a calm blue-green today. We have learned much about human history and culture. Tahoe nodded. We hope this is just the beginning of exchanges between our peoples. Grell looked at his fellow Klarthak, then back at the humans. I would like to speak plainly, Commander. Please do. When we came to Earth, we came with certain expectations. We believed humans were weak. We thought your stories of great heroes were just that, stories. The room was very quiet now. Even the guards by the door stood still, listening. We were wrong, Grell said. The words seemed difficult for him. What we have seen here, the records, the ships, the battles, has shown us that humans possess something the Clarthak respect above all else, the warrior spirit. Officer Drac nodded in agreement, his usually harsh face now thoughtful. Admiral Yi was not just a skilled commander, Grell continued. He was loyal to his people, even when they turned against him. He was clever when facing impossible odds. He was brave when others lost hope. These are the qualities of a true warrior. Tai-Ho felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. Thank you, Ambassador. That means a great deal coming from the Clarthak. But Grell wasn't finished. He stood up, towering over everyone in the room. I came here to judge if Earth would be a worthy addition to our empire. Now I see that we should not be masters and subjects, but equals. The ambassador placed a metal object on the table. It unfolded itself into a small holographic projector. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with different colored areas showing territory controlled by various species. The galaxy grows more dangerous each year, Grell said. New threats emerge from the outer regions. Even the Clarthak face enemies we cannot defeat alone. Grell's clawed finger pointed to a small blue dot, Earth's solar system. You are isolated here, protected by distance for now. But that will not last. You need allies, strong allies. Tai-Ho understood what was happening. This was no longer about cultural exchange. This was about survival. Are you proposing a military alliance? He asked. Yes, Grell said simply. Not because we fear you, but because we respect you. Any species that could produce a mind like Admiral Yu's deserves to fight beside the Clarthak, not against us. Captain Jai-One leaned forward. This is unexpected, Ambassador. We would need to consult with our leaders. Of course, Grell nodded. But know this, I will tell my empire that humans are not to be underestimated. I will tell them that Earth should be welcomed as a valuable ally in the struggles to come. Vrax, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Ambassador, with your permission, I would like to remain on Earth as a liaison, to learn more about human military history and strategy. Grell seemed surprised but pleased. A good suggestion. Vrax. Hey-Sun couldn't hide her smile. As the meeting ended and preparations began for the aliens' departure, Tai-Ho found himself standing alone with Ambassador Grell. When you first told us about Admiral Yi, Grell said, I laughed at what I thought was a children's tale. I apologize for that disrespect. No apology needed, Tai-Ho said. It's natural to be skeptical of extraordinary claims. There is a saying among the Clarthak, Grell said. Judge a people not by their weapons, but by their heroes. Your Admiral Yi has taught us much about humans. I wonder what other heroes your history holds. Tai-Ho smiled. Many. Perhaps next time you visit, we can tell you about a human general named Hannibal, who crossed mountains with giant beasts to surprise his enemies. Grell's eyes widened. Now you are testing me again, Commander. No, Tai-Ho laughed. Just giving you something to look forward to. As the Clarthak ship rose into the blue sky, Tai-Ho knew that the galaxy had changed. All because of one human hero from the past, a hero whose greatest victory came 500 years after his death.